Forgive me if I sometimes spell something wrong or whatever. But the topic is very cool. It's about small groups. Why do we need small groups? And the thing why I chose this topic is because I really learned, especially during the last year, how important small groups are for me. And then I thought, okay, maybe there's even more behind it, and got on the how do you say, not travel, on the walk with this topic, and checked out what's in the Bible and stuff. So from last year, maybe some of you know, I was at the Green Team. It's something like Formula Student, like Formula One, but for students. Some of you know. So you invest 1 year in building a race car and then go on events for 2 months. So it starts in September, and then you will have the events in July, August, maybe sometimes also September in the whole of Europe, also around the world. And you just drive with your car. Yes, for some it sounds a bit silly, but it's quite cool, and you get to learn so many good things. But what I also realized in this time, because you have a lot of, you spend lots of time in manufacturing, testing, and then you're on the events, so you are not in Stuttgart, so you miss small group sometimes. And during this time, I realized, wow, I really missed something personally. I didn't feel that good, and after I came back to small group again, was very happy, that I was back in small group again. And I want to share with you 3 points that I prepared for you today. So the first point is, why does a person need a small group? Quite simple, the question. And I want to start from a purely secular perspective first, before we dive into the Bible. From a purely secular perspective, we can say that man is thoroughly a social being. That's clear. So we need social contacts, especially when it starts when a baby comes or gets, how do you say, born. Then without help from others, it will die. Sad as that, but it needs the help from others, especially the love from the mom. And then latest in the kindergarten, when the kid grown up and it meets new people or new friends outside the family, it has first contact to other people and builds up relationships with them. I mean, that sounds all quite natural, quite logic for you. It's like, Julius, what are you telling us? I know that already, but I think it's even more important when you know what the consequences are if you don't have social contact. And maybe a very contemporary issue, you don't like the word anymore, maybe it's Corona. I think we all realize the effects of Corona, more or less. And there's one interesting Europe-wide study by the EU Commission's Scientific Service, and they counted the citizens who feel lonely, and that's now interesting, more than half of the time. So not like 1 hour a day, but like half the time of their life, or like the day. And in 2016, they did these studies already once, and they got the number 12%. 12% of the people feel lonely more than half of the time. And then 2021, they did it again because of the consequences of Corona in Europe. And it came out that now over 25% feel lonely more than half of the time. So every 4th person here in this room, maybe. That's quite crazy. And I personally was very thankful at that time that I had like these online meetings where we could meet in small groups, also online, where we could pray together, pray united, or just play games, because otherwise I would feel very lonely in this lockdown situation. And then, besides this social influence of groups, there's also a chance for groups to be way more intelligent than one single person. One famous example for that is the phenomenon in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You have these 3 or 4 jokers, depends on what you choose. And there's these, maybe you see the picture then if it works. There is this joker, telephone joker, and audience joker. And the telephone joker, usually you have some experts from your family, or someone, a professor or so from a university who's an expert in history or football or whatever. And if a question comes with football and you know, I have this expert as a telephone joker, then you usually take this joker. And the audience joker is as simple as that you just have one vote per person in the room, and then everybody can say, okay, I guess it's A, B, C, D. And the interesting thing is now that the telephone joker actually is right in 65% of the cases. And the audience joker, without experts, usually without experts, everybody has one vote, is right in 91% of the cases. That's crazy. So audience joker, way better than telephone joker. But yeah, that shows that groups can be way more intelligent. Another famous example, I don't know if that's famous, but it is actually quite famous in this area from professors and experts, is Francis Galton. And in the year 1906, he discovered that at a livestock fair, and there was this task or this challenge, you could win something. There was a cow on a small stage, and everybody could guess the weight of the cow. Just get a paper and then say something like 400 kilos, 500 kilos or pounds, whatever, and then you put it inside. And then this guy, Francis Galton, was very interested in the results and said, okay, I'll have a look on them. And then he found out that the average of all the guesses combined was only 1 pound off the actual weight of the cow, and no single guess was even close to that. So even with experts, no one was even close to like 1 pound. So that's very interesting. There again, the audience won the battle. But what does the Bible say now? That's even more interesting. I can say you it's enormously much. It begins directly at the beginning in Genesis. You notice like it is not good that if man is alone, it's not good. So he needs people around him. And by far the most famous example is Jesus in his most difficult hours before death. He needed his friends, and we can read that also in the Bible. So I have quite many verses today for you. So if you have a Bible with you, then take it out, or your phone, whatever, and then you can mark it. And there are also quite some interesting sentences, and then it's always better if you read it on your own. So Matthew 26, you can open that. I will start with verse 36. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, and now 2 important sentences, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Remember these 2 sentences. In 6th chapter of Ephesians, Paul writes that we should put on God's armor. 6th chapter of Ephesians, verse 11. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Jesus was fighting a spiritual battle, actually. We read that just in Matthew 26. And he certainly had the complete armor that Paul describes. Maybe also like a real premium equipment stuff. I think he got everything. I would need this, everything that's possible. But still, he needed his friends. But why? Why wasn't he able to do it alone? Simple answer to that. It's easier or simply easier to fight and live together. It's easier when you have friends at your side. I mean, it's another topic that they then fall asleep and so on, but he at least asked them because he didn't want to do it alone. My soul, these 2 sentences again, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. The words one another in the New Testament, they appear more than 50 times, and there are even more words that you could connect to a community, to loneliness, to all these topics. But alone these 2 words, one another, appear more than 50 times, and we'll read that in Hebrews 10, verse 24. And let us consider now how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting it together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And then Ecclesiastes 4, verse 9, quite famous, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. So Jesus needed friends. So we do. We also need friends. And I don't mean those on Facebook or Instagram, photos on Instagram. No, it's not so real. I mean, there's social media has become there's this Be Real app or what, we just figured out is Hangout, and Hangout at the Prince of India. I got to know this app for the very first time. I was like, okay, wow, now social media has become real, but no, I'm joking. You know what I mean? It's more or less about the real communication, the face-to-face that you have. And one famous sentence that you all heard about, I'm not sure if it's right that way, but name your best friends and I'll tell you who you are. I mean, you cannot generalize it on the whole character of a person, but you can say, okay, there's some grain of truth behind it. And I'm not just talking here about the friends, name your best friends. It's also about people who you spend time with, because you usually adopt behavioral patterns, for example, without noticing it. Sometimes quite passively. Do you still know these bracelets? What would Jesus do? I really like them. Maybe we have a picture of that. If it's working, yes. I really liked them as a kid because they became quite popular I'm not sure when they became popular, but I remember myself when I was 10, 11 or so, and I went from Grundschule to Gymnasium in Germany. That's high school, maybe, I'm not sure how Bernhard says yes, okay, then I'm right. So I went to high school as a young boy, and I remember when you're new to school, everybody's new, you look for new friends who could like you, who do you like and stuff. And then I remember these bracelets becoming very popular, and I also got one. And then I found out that some other people, some other boys and girls had also sometimes these bracelets, especially in religion in classes. And that was quite cool for me because I was like, wow, you're also Christian, right? But not like this directly, where kids are always a bit reserved maybe. Which church do you go and so on. But that was how friendships turned out or came up. That was quite cool. And then a group came out of this, and we were like these "What would Jesus do" kids. That was very cool. I really enjoyed that. I didn't feel lonely, And loneliness in our society doesn't always mean that you don't do much with people. It's not like sitting home alone, maybe also that, but it's more, what I think, it's more than that. It also can start when we start to pretend, If we can't say the truth, or if we can't be honest with ourselves or to others, then you also feel lonely. We feel lonely where we prefer to do it alone sometimes. So to sum it up again, our environment significantly determines our personal development. And in the long run, that also determines how we develop personally and in faith. And to answer the first question again, why do we need small groups? Because Jesus did. He needed a small group. He needed his best friends in many moments of his life, but especially the worst moment of his life. Second point, a small group is more than an offer. It's not like a nice to have. What do you mean by that? If you look into the Bible, to the very first church, that's always something I'd like to do when you think, okay, how was it originally planned? You look to the origin, and that's in this case the very first church. So how is it described? How did they meet and so on? And you can read it in Acts 2. If you open your Bible there, Acts 2, verse 41. I have to do a bit pre-work for that you understand it. So verse 41, those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day. And then we continue in verse 46 and 47. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. That is already crazy. You read about that, it's okay, yeah, cool, nice, sounds great. But it's actually from one day to another, more than 3,000 people became believers. That's from one day to another, mega church. Easy as that. That's insane. And then it it's not like that's not the end of the story. In chapter 4, we continue, verse 4. But many who heard the message believed, so the number of men who believed grew to about 5,000. So now we are already at 5,000, from 3,000 to 5,000. It's already crazy, but now we're just talking about men, not about women and children. So if you say, okay, one man, one woman, one child, then you have times 3, so 15,000 at least maybe. It's even more. And then we continue in verse 14, like chapter 5 now. Nevertheless, more and more men and women believed in the Lord and were added to their number. And then verse 28, that's interesting. We gave you strict orders not to teach in this name, he said. Yet you have filled Jerusalem with your teaching and are determined to make us guilty of this man's blood. No, there are so many Christians that you even can't count them anymore. The Bible is full of numbers. If there's possibility to have a number, the Bible takes it usually. Everything is in numbers, and you have many symbols with numbers. But now they just say many believed, and all of Jerusalem. All of Jerusalem. That's just, if you think about it, like what would happen in like 100 years? Someone says, okay, in this year 2023 or 22, it's quite, we have already now October, but maybe then in 23, like all of Stuttgart talked about Jesus. Wouldn't that be great? That's what the Bible says here, but it was in Jerusalem, yeah. But we always think, okay, that was in the past. Now, it could happen here as well. Maybe we just sometimes don't believe it. It's too small. But to be honest, it's not that at the moment. It's not like that at the moment. There was this survey of the Allianz Stuttgart, maybe you remember, at the Liederhalle, where we had this service. They said it again, that only, they said, okay, 5% of Stuttgart, of the people in Stuttgart, they go to church regularly. They were quite happy about it. I was like, well, it's actually quite sad. Isn't it? 5%, it's nothing. It could be all of Jerusalem. It could be all of Stuttgart. So I think there's lots of room for improvement, but let's go back to the very first church. How did they manage to, that's what I ask myself, how did they manage to get, to do worship, to do services with all of Jerusalem, or 15,000 people, 20,000, and then even more? Did they have a stage? How was it? And in Acts 5, verse 42, we can learn that, or read that. Day after day, in the temple courts and from house to house, they never stopped teaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Messiah. So again, they met in temple courts and from house to house. Temple courts answers the very first question. So temple courts, multiple locations. It's a huge space, huge area. You can stand there. You have standing places. And maybe from soccer games, standing places is, could be quite tight, quite close, maybe not so comfortable, but you get quite many people in this area. We went to a soccer game this Wednesday with our small group and others from church to Stuttgart against Bielefeld. DFB Cup, maybe you saw it as well. Stuttgart won 6-0, that's quite cool. And we also had standing places, which was quite funny because in front of me there was a person who was so excited about the game. She always did a scarf, something for the winter from VfB Stuttgart, and she was always like waving it around. And multiple times I got hit by it. I tried to avoid it, but sometimes I got hit. And then all the time, like at least 10 seconds later, for the first 3 goals, Stuttgart scored a goal actually, so it was a bit worth it. But after that I said, okay, maybe please take a bit care of me. So standing places you can get quite many people there. But what's more important for me personally is the second place. Because it's saying not only temple courts, but from house to house as well. So church also took place in houses. And for the first church, it was actually natural to meet day by day, so every day. It was not like, okay, church is on Sunday, or must be Sunday, Saturday, whatever, and then small group maybe once a week. It can also mean that you do it day by day. There's no rule or whatever. Of course, in Germany, we have like strict plans and stuff, but sometimes you just can like do it also during the week more often. Why not? And at the same time, what I find very interesting, they met regularly in large groups for worship. So it's not only about the small groups, it's also about big worship services or just coming together in huge groups. That's also cool. But I come to that later but an important point what I also think about when you read this like from house to house, I guess it was like a high fluctuation, to say like this. Many new people all the time. So I think small group also doesn't have to be the same all the time. I know that from my grandparents in Switzerland, for example, so I'm half Swiss, and every time I visit them in Basel, they have small group on Wednesday or Thursday. So when I'm there at Wednesdays or Thursdays, then I am also invited to their small group. And every time I visit them, like every 2 or 3 months, I see some new faces. It's quite cool, like 1 or 2, not many, but I see some new faces. And then I see familiar ones as well, maybe one less or so because he has to move or she had to move to another city. But that actually inspires me because the atmosphere is always very warm, very friendly. And there are also some new people that I get to know there. So a small group doesn't have to mean, you're in 5 people or 10 people for the rest of your life. It can also change. And this concept works so that you have big services and small groups. Why? Because it's a biblical method. We just read it in the Bible. They had biblical growth, so from 0 to or 12 or 20, 100 to 3,000, 5,000, 15,000 and even more, and then all of Jerusalem. And you know the rest of the story. So if you want biblical growth in this Celebrate Life Church in Stuttgart, if you want these like all of Stuttgart, then we also could try to think biblically, to have this thinking of, okay, big services like we have here, meet together in a big group, and then also focus on small groups, on this face-to-face communication. And Rick Warren, I guess you all know this guy, once gave a very interesting answer to the question of whether he would rather reach many people with mega churches and huge worship services, or if he would love or rather do missionary work in small groups. And he just said, yes, why not both? It doesn't mean you can build a mega church and you can't focus on one another. You can do that. That's what the very first church did as well. So I want to read Acts 2, verse 46 and 47 again. Every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So church can also be every day. And ultimately, God the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So at the end, it's God. We can't say, okay, now we do that. At the end, God has to do this has to work in the end, that many people get saved. But we have just learned about a super foundation for this, about this concept of small groups and big services. So, for example, in countries where Christians are persecuted, I wouldn't have to talk about this topic. They have no other possibility there. I wouldn't ask them, why do you have small groups? There's no other option for them. But it still works. People find God even in the small groups there, when they have to hide. Because nothing is impossible with God. So, to sum it up, small groups are not only an offer, but the cells of our church, of the whole body. And with cells, it's even quite interesting if you go to biology, whatever. Can't say this word, what you had in school. I didn't have it quite a long time because I didn't like it, but that's another topic. But what I've learned from there is that you have your DNA, and this DNA is in every cell of your body. It's included there. And this contains all your genes, and each gene then in turn serves as a basis for the production of one protein. And the interesting thing is that if every cell has a DNA of your body, and you compare that with a church, that small groups are the cells of your body, then it also says, okay, that every small group has to contain or embody the DNA of the church. It's very important, I think. Because at the end, if one small group or one cell gets hurt, the others around it, they're all connected, they have all exchanging information, how are you doing? Oh, I'm hurt. Okay, then they can help each other to repair. And our cells also don't sleep, they multiply, they repair themselves, they always try to, renew themselves. Otherwise we would die. The older you get, the slower this process becomes. So if a fresh young body has this production is quite high. So with a living alive or fully alive church would be the same. So we have to try to renew ourselves day by day. And that leads me to my last question. What makes a small group big? A small group, what makes it big? And Pastor Kevin Hampton has written down 4 very interesting, he calls it truths, about small groups from his perspective. And the first truth is, you won't become best friend forever with everyone. It's quite important to know because sometimes people think, okay, now I go to a small group, but I don't get along with everybody quite well. We should be friends, best friends maybe, forever. But it's actually not the case, not the truth. The truth is that Jesus also had very good friends, like Peter, Jake, I don't know. I only know it in German, but yeah. These 3 close friends and then his 12 disciples. So when he has close friends, then we also can have close friends. And we don't have to be best friend with everybody, but we can still have small groups. A second truth, it's not about you. I softened it a bit. It's not only about you. I think it's also about you because it's important if you don't feel good that the small group can help you. But the message of this point is more that it's not only about you, that you need or also can help others with that. What do I mean by this? In small groups, you grow together and you grow together. So 2 times. You grow together as a small group, build trust as a group itself, and then you grow together in faith. That's the second growing. And for the first growing, to grow together, you build trust. At the same time, growing together in faith, exchange ideas, support each other, finding answers together, or praying about unanswered questions. This is small group, actually, to do both. Small group is when you don't think about yourself alone, but about the community and about growing together. I have 2 sentences for you. I guess you sometimes, maybe heard them from another person or from yourself. The first sentence is, I'm doing great. I don't really need a small group at the moment. Then be there for others. They need you. It's not about us. It's not about you. If you feel good, then you're there for others. You can be there for others. Love your neighbor. That's what it means. And then second sentence is, I don't want a small group right now. Then maybe check your priorities again. Small groups are important to our faith life. And that's what I tried to make clear to you in the 2 points before. We shouldn't say that about our teeth as well. We shouldn't say, okay, they do right, they do good, well at the moment. I shouldn't care about them now. You don't do that. I just got reminded by Julius just had to say me, okay, you have to make an appointment or I schedule a checkup dentist again. So I just forgot it. I was not being mad at my teeth or whatever. Wouldn't make sense, but I just forgot it. I had to get reminded. Yes, okay, always get confused with these 2. That I need a checkup. That is very good because you should do that as well with your mental health. That's very important. The third truth, I have better things to do. Yeah, sure, we have always better things to do. We could always also go to doing sports or finish the task from work, school, study, whatever. There are always things or other things we could do, yes. But you maybe heard this sentence before, one doesn't have time, one takes the time. This phrase has become very important for me, actually. So where you invest your time is where your priorities lie. And it's not even necessarily about the quantity of time. Sometimes we have to do things, yes, but it's more about the quality, the focus of time that you give something, the commitment. And last but not least, the fourth truth, you will get hurt and hurt others. And not because you mean to be rude, no, but out of charity, actually. The people closest to you can and sometimes will have to hurt you because they love you. Sometimes life is difficult, but honesty and trust are essential in a small group. So in order for me to be helped or help others, we have to be honest with ourselves. You also don't go to a doctor and say, hey, you have a broken arm, you can, hey, my leg hurts. You don't do that, it's just stupid. So you should do the same with your mental health, but it's important, obviously, to have trust in another other person, that you won't tell anybody else if you don't want to. And trust isn't like there for just, we're in a small group now, we trust each other 100%. No, that's not the truth. Truth is that you really have to work on that. It takes lots of time, like a vase or so, to build it very carefully. And then if you want to crack or destroy it, then you just could drop it. It's the same with trust, so you have to be really careful in small groups. So one important thing is maybe what is said in trust in small group stays in a small group. That's what you could start with to make a small group big. So I want to sum it up. What have we learned today? First one, we humans need small groups. Why? Because Jesus is the best example. We could always look to Jesus. What did he do? What would Jesus do? Jesus would ask his friends to pray for him. He has a small group. Or had a small group. Second thing, we have learned that small groups were an integral part of the early church and should be today. Temple courts on the one hand and house to house on the other hand. Inviting worship services and then deep dive in small groups. That's how the message can reach the whole city. All of Jerusalem, all of Stuttgart, all of the world. And last thing, just before I let you know that, I'll let you in on the fact that small groups require commitment and dedication. It's not like easy. Small groups are, you put energy in. You listen to a person, you care for another person. It's not always easy, but at the end, it's team play. And with a team, you can reach many cool things. Like a Messi or Ronaldo, there would be nothing without their team. They would win nothing. They would lose every game in professional classes, obviously. Finally, 2 thoughts for you and also, what you could share in your small group maybe. The first thought is that actually about 80% of new Christians come to faith through connection to a small group. So big things happen in small groups. I believe it there. And the second thing is small groups should pass the hot tea in the thermos. Is it right? Thermos? That's what I mean. So you maybe ask yourself, what is this? Why do I have it here? But in thermos, it's quite warm inside. You feel comfortable. It's cool. The only issue with that is that you're insulated. Nothing comes out of it. But our task, or what Jesus said, is that we should, spread the gospel. Tell it to others. Invite others in the small group, in the service. And for that, you have to do this. Cool effect, right? Because hot tea inside, or now hot water, and you should do this. That's what we should do, not like only this. And the cool thing is about Jesus, about God, you can get infinite amount of hot tea. Infinite amount. But at the end, this is what people need. They need hot water because it's outside it's very cold. I have a quite cool example for that. Story from when I was a young boy, I guess 13 or 14. Maybe some of you know this Adonia musical camps. it started in Switzerland and now in Germany, all of Germany, and also in other countries. And there you have a musical about a biblical story, and there are camps for kids and camps for teens. And for example, at the teens camps where I was at that age, you have like 3 to 4 rehearsal days, and then 4 days of going to different cities in one state of Germany and have your musicals or concerts there. And then 1 year was very cool because it was in Hessen. I come from Marburg, it's in Hessen, and it was one location was in Marburg actually, so in my hometown. I was very excited about that, and we drove to a Burger King. And then when we wanted to pay, one guy from the choir had the idea, hey, let's sing a song in the Burger King for these people here. I was like, well, no. Then like, what if, be silent, you're stupid, and whatever. Or what if I know someone and the week after when I come back to school, I get, whatever. Not bullied, but how do you say? People laugh about me. But then, I tell you how this moment felt. Some pressure wants to come out. It felt like this. And what happens if hot things come out, then actually cold comes inside. Cold air comes inside, and it feels very, don't feel good. It's always like, what if? So many reasons to not do it. But when we sang the song, actually, and then after that, the atmosphere there was just changed completely. From normal Burger King atmosphere, I guess you know how that feels, to like, wow, what's going on here? And all people there were like, wow, cool. And actually, some people there, we invited them to the concert then that evening, and actually people came. I don't know what happened then, but God knows. And that's our task to speak to the people what is truth, what God wants us to do. So open this and just give it to others. If you remember one thing from this message, then maybe this, because that's quite cool. It's a cool feeling if you can do that, but it's not easy because it gets cold for the first time. I want to pray with us. Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for this service. I thank you for this topic about small groups, that we don't have to do it alone. That is something like the issues, the problems we have in life, that we can also talk about that with others, that you are actually the best example in Jesus. That we need friends, that we need people to talk with. You also needed that. I want to pray especially for these 95% of Stuttgart, the people that don't know you, don't visit church regularly. That we open our thermos and give this hot tea, this infinite amount of hot tea from you. That we can share in a small group and build it up there. That we can, just give it to others. As I also thank you for the prayer cards that we have, that we can pray for each other. One person said that he is very thankful for the semester that he had or she had, and asked for blessings for the next semester. Another person for exams that are upcoming. And one person asked to become a better person, to be a blessing in other people's lives, to love the neighbors, and give the hot water from a thermos to other people. I really ask you and pray for that. We're not alone with that we can do that together and open this thermos even more than we already do. Amen. So now for the next song, there will be some minutes of silence or just soft music where you can go back to the cross or just stand up and pray for each other, enjoy the worship, the music. Feel free, whatever you want to do. Amen.